Hey guys, thanks for joining us tonight. It is Eric's 38th birthday. Happy birthday, buddy. We are both smoking Deadwood sticks. I'm going with the Fat Bottom Betty. Eric's got the Leather Rose.
Almost gone.
We're all over the place just like always. We're talking about not wasting your pandemic year and doing something really positive with it. We talked about the origins of the Deadwood stick, and we talked about a lot of fun stuff. So thank you so much for joining us. We are Cedar Culture.
Kick back and relax, it's time to shoot the shit. Hanging out with the broskies, Gary and Eric. Let the ash go long and the convo stay pure. That's Cedar Culture. That's Cedar Culture. That's Cedar Culture.
Let's bundle these leaves and burn them and suck on them.
All
I would
right.
say this is the stick that turned me on to Maduros. Darker wrappers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah. It's fun.
Dude, so, all right, it's my birthday.
Happy fucking
So
birthday.
we just got to get that out of the way in the beginning because we always talk about
We
how
reference age.
in every episode somehow. So now it's like there's actual reason. So I'm going to pour myself a
Officially
glass.
38. What are you pouring
That
yourself?
there, Rare
Oh,
Ringer, Rabbit Hole. Got.
What happened to the bottle? There used to be a lot more in there, bud.
I know. It's the last of
It's
it.
a
So
cool bottle. Turn that into a vase or something, bud.
a vase. I know.
Or a
I
votive.
just
Throw
realized
some
I
cigar
bought,
bands in there.
I bought a cigar that was aged in these,
That's awesome.
and but I never smoked it.
You should pair them together. Do you remember what the cigar was?
My fucking mic is going crazy. Do I remember what it was? Yeah,
The
it's
brand?
Diesel.
Was it the Diesel?
Yeah. Anyway, man, so big episode in that
Yeah.
it's the last episode we're shooting before Christmas. It's going to be the first episode released of the new year.
Yep.
And it's my birthday.
Happy 38, bud.
Thanks, man. I
Just
appreciate
poured
it.
yourself a nice beverage there, adult beverage, since you're old enough to enjoy libations now.
I do. Yeah, old enough now, finally. Who bought you your first drink when you turned 21?
I want to say my dad. My first legal drink?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad.
Yeah, my mom did for me. I actually came home on leave, and
Oh, that's-
she wanted to be the first one. So, like, I think it was when she got done work or something like that.
That's awesome.
Went to Copperfields.
When's the last time you went and had a drink with your mom?
She doesn't drink anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Years.
Yeah, like I was probably 15 years ago. Something like that, 14. Yeah,
Good for her.
maybe a little less than that.
She's
Kind
a
of
strong
wild.
woman inside and out. She raised
She is.
a good young man there.
She is. So Gary, what are we smoking today?
I'm excited for this, which is funny because we're not like smoking anything crazy out of the box. It's cigars we've had before. We're smoking stuff from the Deadwood line.
Yeah.
Drew Estate's Deadwood line. You are going with their newest release, the Leather Rose.
I am, and when I kind of had in my mind, sometimes like we try really not to prepare, like we try to prepare just the right amount for these episodes, but not too much. But sometimes you just start playing the episode in your head a little bit ahead of time, and in my head I kind of had that I was going to say, oh yeah, we wanted to go with something like infused today. We wanted something a little lighter, but I think, we can read off this. We don't know much about the stick because they don't publish much in terms of the blend. This was released before like all the digital publications really started, so there's no like release notes on it or anything like that. What I think would be more interested is to take what I just said, which is I thought we were going to be talking about this infused stick today.
Right.
But we're not. We are going to talk about the stick, but we're definitely not talking about infused stick.
Right.
And why is that?
This is aromatic pipe tobacco. And
But that sounds infused to me. So
does.
tell me why should I care?
Right, that's a good point. Why should we care? But I could tell you, so my journey with this stick, and it's funny because when I think of it in terms of cedar culture history, like I think the Fat Bottom Betty was one of the ones I first brought over to you, like in your bundle of, hey, you're starting to smoke cigars. This is becoming one of my favorite cigars to smoke. Again, at that time, I thought it was infused too. It's a sweetened tip, which some traditional cigar smokers will shy away from. But as we kind of talk, I think it lends itself nice to this blend. But so yeah, not much. We tried to do some research on what aromatic pipe tobacco even is, and all I can find is literally pipe tobacco.
Because to me, like tobacco is a plant, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're going to say it's aromatic pipe tobacco, that just tells me it's infused. Like you've done something to it. You've made it aromatic.
So what I assume is the process of infusing an aromatic is different. Just like in the brewing process, there's different things. And
so it's got to be treated in some way.
Just like all bourbons are.
But the thing is, let's get down to it, right? So how do we know this? Why is this so important?
Oh, so I was on a Drew Estate forum, being the cigar dork that I was and still am, and just kind of getting some knowledge and learning on some of the sticks. And man, look at the smoke pouring off that thing already. It's like a stick of incense. Someone brought up the fact that, hey, I don't like Deadwood sticks. They're infused. And this person started commenting like, no, 100%, I know for certain that they're not infused. It's natural aromatic pipe tobacco. So I messaged that person. And I was like, thanks for the information. How do you know that? I learned that person is Vaughn Boyd. Doing a little bit more research, Vaughn Boyd owned the Deadwood Tobacco Shop.
The shop that he started out of.
Right.
So, do you want to give the kind of quick background, or?
Sorry, getting that first light. Yeah. So just small tobacco shop in Deadwood. Luckily, they're South Dakota, right outside of Sturgis, and that's kind of where they got lucky enough to, be around and be around the motorcycle rally, and it kind of took off from there. And we'll kind of go into it. Should we
start going into it? Because I forgot to get a non-alcoholic beverage, so I'm gonna go get a non-alcoholic beverage while you start talking about this.
All right, sounds good. Now that Eric's gone, we'll kind of really go into what's going on here. So Vaughn Boyd, Deadwood, South Dakota, small town tobacco shop. She meets, dude, we're gonna have to turn on we talked about last episode that sometimes we don't need the exhaust on. I have a feeling we're gonna need it. It's smoky already. So Vaughn Boyd meets Jonathan Drew from Drew Estate at one of his first events. Being a smaller company, they kind of exchange information. She has him come down and gets involved with the Sturgis race. After one of the Sturgis rallies, they're talking about teaming up. Let's put together a stick that kind of commemorates Sturgis. She talks about the blend she wants. I think she even references that she wants it to kind of be like the Laraton line of Drew Estate, which is now the natural line. I reversed that. The natural line of Drew Estate, which is now the Laraton, spelled backwards. She talked about what size she would want, what kind of wrapper, and lo and behold, the masters at the Drew Estate kind of came up with what was the Sweet Jane. Originally had motorcycle bands on it. That evolved into the kind of sugar skulls that are now, adorning all the Deadwood sticks. And just kind of a cool progression.
So start with the Sweet Jane. It was a blend that Drew Estate came up with her collaboration in terms of the size. The sweet tip was her idea. The artwork was approved by her. The whole kind of concept, like the aesthetic and everything.
The whole look, the feel.
Was her. They had asked her input, and she got to provide that. And then but then the expansion from there, right? They came out with two others.
Right. So it sounds like when the first Sweet Jane came out and it was just the motorcycle wrappers, it was like 100 boxes or 100 cigars. It was a very limited run. And then people were smoking them, really liking them, and it kind of evolved from there. So Sweet Jane was the first sister.
Which is, did we even say which ones we're smoking? So the Sweet Jane is the original. We happen to not be smoking that one.
Right.
The next one after that was the Betty.
Fat Bottom Betty, which I'm smoking. Fat Bottom, Sweet Jane is a 5x46. The original Fat Bottom Betty was a 5x54. And then they came out with a third sister called the Crazy Alice, which is like a cone vitola pyramid stick, 4.5x46. And then the most recent sister, which you're smoking, is the Deadwood Leather Rose.
Yeah, it was a much awaited kind of release. People were going crazy. You see
Still
all
hard
over
to find.
Are they?
Yeah, still they're trying to kind of keep up with the demand.
That makes
Came
sense.
out in the summer, right?
COVID didn't help.
Yeah, COVID did not help.
That hurt production. But
that's actually, I think, the first cigar I was super excited for a release. I was actually waiting for it. I heard, there's going to be a new Deadwood sister. There was all this hype. Only a few shops got it. Some of the Drew Estate retailers and the brick and mortars that I go to couldn't even get a hold of it. So I know we were kind of waiting with bated breath to kind of smoke it.
The weird thing, and this will probably be one of the last things we kind of say about the history of the stick, but those first three that came out, they had the three sisters, they had different names, but to our understanding, at least, they're the same blend. just different sizes.
Right.
Now, we've talked about this before about how they use a different name, but it's really just a different size. That can be
Right.
frustrating. Now, what gets really confusing though is of those three, where each name really represents a size, they wound up coming out with different sizes for each of those.
Right.
So now there's names mean sizes, but there's actually sizes. And then to throw us all off, when they came out with this fourth sister, again, to our understanding, this is the only of the four that's actually not just a different size, but it's a different blend as well.
So within the Fat Bottom
figure.
Daddy, there's like Toros, Robusto, Gorditos. The only one I think is Crazy Alice that only remains that pyramid shape, because I guess it would be tough.
Yeah.
But even Sweet Jane, I've seen Sweet Jane A's, like those real long, skinny, like almost like a Lonsdale times 2. And I don't know who makes those decisions of what's going to come out there. I even think I have somewhere a Drew Estate event only Sweet Jane that's box pressed.
Really?
Yeah. If I
That'd be
could
fun.
find it in my humidor,
Yeah, it'd be a fun
I'll
one to smoke.
take a picture.
Um,
So what's, I know we've both smoked them before, but what's your
this is
your
the
initial?
crazy part, because I know, and obviously, I was gonna kind of come in today almost calling bullshit. Like, stop calling it, aromatic. Like, it's infused. It has to be. You taste it. It is. But obviously, we know from the originator now that it's not. I think it's the sweet tip then. So the fact that it is kind of aromatic, it has these other spices, that are kind of hard for me to describe, but like almost a hint of like a clove and a nutmeg, and like legit like those kind of like there might even be I don't know, like cardamom in there or something,
I
all these random things.
I got pepper on the dry draw. I actually have to hold this stick like away as I'm smoking it because it's getting in my eyes, like just from the. I said it's like a stick of incense, almost like infused. So whatever they do to that process, like that's what it is.
The good thing is that the smoke's not. I don't know. It's not really super harsh, so it's not killing. It's like
it's not creamy.
If there's this
I wouldn't
much,
say it's creamy. It's smoky, but
I would call it creamy. I would call it creamy, right? I don't know. Like it's a pillow because it's pillowy. It's soft.
Pillowy
smoke. Yeah. It's not harsh. It's not.
And look at it lingering over the lights.
Yeah. So, so that's what we're smoking. It's a known entity. Yours has been around since the dawn of time, basically.
Yeah.
This is just a new blend off of that. It's been around for just a few months, but pretty well documented. The point of this isn't necessarily for us to review it or to break ground on it. It's really just for us to, on my birthday, get together and smoke an enjoyable stick.
Yeah.
That we like together here before Christmas. Last time we'll see each other before Christmas. And then luckily we'll have some time to get together a few times between Christmas and New Year's.
Absolutely.
So other than that, we were talking about what we wanted to talk about here. In a way, it's the first episode we're going to release in the new year. So it's a new beginnings kind of thing. We're recording it on my birthday. Also happens to be the end of the year, so that always is a good time to reflect. So
absolutely,
we were talking about and something that not just to be vain, but something I think would be interesting to people is. 2020 was a crazy year for a lot of people, and I went through a lot of changes, and it's leading to starting this business, which I don't know if you noticed my hat.
Oh, I did not see the wearing it backwards.
Rocking the new brand.
Rocking some swag.
Rocking some swag from the franchise. So we'll get into why that's funny and everything here. But so I had mentioned in one of our first episodes, and really it's what started Cedar culture, frankly. Like what started this was me leaving my last company. When I was at that company and people would ask me, and this is unhealthy, and this is why I was saying I think people will get interested in sort of this whole thought process and everything. It was an unhealthy obsession with work. I loved my job. I worked more hours than I had to. And for years, when people would ask what my hobby was, I would say that company,
Wow.
The software company in the fitness space. I mean, I got to talk to athletes and jocks and sell them software, but also, be in the software world and pave like a legit career and a legit path for myself. I got to learn so much that we were applying here.
Yeah,
and
very fortunate.
and all that. But yeah, it's a scary thing. And I think a lot of people talk about this, not just now that it's almost 2021, but really since like April, people have been talking about, can't wait for 2021.
Yeah.
And I completely reject that notion of like wait, oh, I can't wait for 2021. It's the equivalent of, and we all do it, but it's the equivalent of my diet will start when.
Everybody, everyone's saying that.
We all,
especially New Year's.
But yeah, the diet thing, that's the tale as old as time, but to apply that concept to your whole life and your whole future and sort of write a whole year off, it's fucking insane. Like to just say that, oh, this year is a wash. We're gonna can't wait for next year.
The ball's going to drop and everything's going to go back to normal, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. You got to kind of learn to dance in the storm here.
Well, and not just dance in the storm, and just not lose a year of your life. Mm-hmm. The reality is, and I don't want to downplay it. I mean, a lot of people have had the worst year of their life.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people either didn't have the worst year of their life, or didn't have to have the worst year of their life, and they chose to.
Or maybe they were told this is going to be the worst year of their life.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And look, everybody's got their version of it, whether it's gaining the COVID-15 or whatever, gaining the COVID-19 pounds. But that's around when you and I reconnected. It's when I got into cigars, and this whole idea of, I had a couple things in my mind when I was leaving that company, which was, I want to explore myself outside of that company. I had defined my sort of identity to an extent by that company for so long. And so I wanted to really figure out who Eric Allen is, and through that and explore passions. And very quickly, within weeks, I gained a hobby. Mm-hmm. For the first time in several years, when people say, do you have a hobby? I can say yes, and it's not work. I know that's insane to some people, and it's insane to some people who don't think that way and aren't that way, and to those people, kudos. I attribute some of my, I'm gonna call it success. I'm not like a celebrity or something, but I'm doing well, and it's, I think it's
your work ethic.
It's due to the work ethic, but that's what I'm saying. It's due in part, I think, to the work ethic, and I think, did I go too far with that? Absolutely, but I don't know. But yeah, so.
Let me ask you a question then. So on your, I remember we talked about it, and obviously we texted back and forth while it was happening. But so on that day, when your boss at your former company is like, hey, we're kind of moving in a different direction, you're going to kind of have to, so when you're thinking in your head, well, I have to kind of not only redefine who I am, but rediscover who I am. Where did that first part of your journey take you? Where were you like, all right,
to the cigar shop,
right,
which is hysterical because I was not a cigar smoker.
Right.
And it reminded me of something, which was when I was a kid, young, too young, like 7th grade, I tried a cigarette.
Right.
And, and then I had a puff here or there through 7th grade, 8th grade. That's about it. And then by high school, I didn't, I was an athlete and I just, it wasn't my thing. Until one time when I was 17, this girl broke my heart. And the way she broke my heart, frankly, was she invited me to a party, and then I'm there, and she's just hooking up with some other dude at her party, and I don't know anybody. It's a different town. Coincidentally, it's actually this town. So I lived in another town, and I came to this town for that I live in now.
A lot of crossovers.
But I know. But anyway, so it was wild, right? So in that moment, when she broke my heart, I was just I want a cigarette.
Yeah.
And I bought one on the way home, which happens to be the next shopping center over from the cigar shop that I went to now, 20-some years later.
That's insane.
Anyway, so in that moment, my first thought was I want to go get a cigar and some whiskey. I'm not a cigar smoker, but whatever. So I go to the cigar shop. We've beat that topic to death. We've talked about that in the past, the whole my father incident. And then I go over to the liquor store. And it was actually, it was really funny. I go to somebody there. It's Total Wine, which is a chain. I think it's a regional chain, but they know their shit. They hire people that know what they're talking about. And so it's actually cool if you didn't know that. If you happen to go there, depending on what you want, I would go up to the manager and be like, hey, can I talk to your bourbon guy or girl? Can I talk to your wine guy or girl? It's cool. They know their stuff.
Or whatever they are.
And so I got the bourbon person and I said, I need a good bottle of whiskey. And she said, okay, and what's the occasion? I was like, well, it's a celebration. And then, while we were looking, I was like, she picked out a bottle. It was Lucky 13 or something like that. I was like, well, it's actually kind of fitting because I was like, it's a celebration, but I did, I'm out of work now.
Congratulations.
She kind of looked. She actually looked like she didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she should say congratulations or like what, you know.
That's a tough.
It was funny. So I buy those things, and I don't know. That's a very long-winded answer to what was the first thing I did. I went and bought whiskey and cigars. Yeah. So going through that, then I went to a barbecue joint that I've been wanting to try. It closes early, and I'm not back from work in the city by then, and so I went and checked that place out. I had a friend that happens to live a couple blocks from there. He works from home anyway, and he's doing well. It doesn't really matter. So I went over to his house. I had a cigar on his front step, and he smoked some weed, and we kind of chilled, had a couple beers, and hung out. And then at that point, it was a Friday, and I just told myself, well, I'm not going to even think about this till Monday anyway. Right. So this is tomorrow's problem. So, yeah.
And for a person who defines himself by work, I mean,
it was a big deal. And so the other thing, that I thought, so you're kind of what were your first thoughts? The first thing was cigar and whiskey, and the second first thought was, I don't want to be reliant on somebody else's business for my only income stream ever again.
Wow.
That was that was.
See, and I've never heard you say that.
Really?
But
Yeah,
it ties into exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely ties in, and that's why I thought people would find this kind of story interesting.
100%.
Because I think a lot of people can relate to these things, like losing a job or changing jobs or whatever. And yeah, so the second thing was I have to design some income stream, whether it's like a full business and it's my full income stream or what. And but no matter what, I decided that the first month was going to be doing nothing. I mean, I went some years there where I took 2 or 3 days of vacation.
Right.
Which is insane, and
I luckily got to hang with you for that summer that you're like, I'm not worrying about resumes, I'm not worrying about work, and it was a great time for you to get into cigars.
So I took the summer off. It was a great time to get into cigars.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I got lucky. This all went down like the last day of June. So I had July and August to be a summer. And,
did you enjoy that first cigar at your buddy's house?
I did. What's funny?
Because I knew you weren't a cigar guy.
Yeah, I did. It was something light. I honestly don't remember what it was. It blows my mind that so many people remember their first cigar. When you see in the forums, people are like, "Oh, my first cigar was this." And the other thing people say is, "You never forget your first cigar." I'm like, "Really? You don't ever forget? Really?"
Because I couldn't tell you. I know it was at a wedding, probably somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Now,
like, how do you?
I think you'll remember the first cigar that you really enjoyed, like that you were like, "Ooh, I'm gonna."
I do. I do. In that, like, I know it was a Tobacco Especial. Happens to also be by Drew Estate. Half the freaking cigars in the world are by Drew Estate. So, not really, but
probably being close.
But what was I gonna say? So I don't remember but I don't know that was like the first one I had that I liked, or
right.
But maybe I didn't realize it on the first one. It's like a general first that I remember.
And you didn't just buy one, didn't you buy a couple?
I bought like 2 or 3 cigars. 3 cigars.
Right. So you knew you were gonna give it the old college effort.
Yeah. I mean, because I had a whole bottle of whiskey, so
Right,
I needed multiple cigars.
True. There you go.
So yeah, so 60 days off. Fast forward, and then it's all right. What am I going to do? I wound up in a very, very, very fortunate position where I didn't have to apply anywhere. Some people just started reaching out. Hey, I heard you're a free agent, kind of stuff, and that was pretty amazing because I didn't know if that would happen. I mean, not that I didn't know if that would happen. I didn't even think. No, I just didn't think that would happen at all. Like it didn't even cross my radar that people would hear that I was out of work and then reach out to me, and then I wouldn't even have to really worry too much about applying for jobs. However, the first thing I want to say is, I guess I should say, is that that's not luck. Like some people might listen to that and say, some people might listen to that and be like, oh wait, this is a story about how you lost your job and then people offered you a job. Like, first off, you make your own luck. It goes back to that in this regard, right? Like,
because you worked your balls
These
off.
are people that I worked with in the past and are now doing other things, and it's purely based on reputation and work. But they weren't like job offers, right? It's just like opportunities, conversations.
I remember when you said, I was like, oh, dude, you're good.
They're just conversations.
You were like, no, my reputation and my work ethic
gets me the conversation.
Got me lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, when we talked about it. But
exactly, and so I had some really good conversations, and things were going really well and progressing with some of these things. But
I remember.
A lot of these companies that I was talking to, they weren't sitting around waiting for Eric Allen, right? Like they were talking to me because they were opportunistic, because they heard I was a free agent, but they didn't necessarily have roles that day. And so we're just talking and evolving, working on some ideas for different roles, that because they just wanted me in their company
where you could fit,
yeah,
where you could grow
where I could add value,
where you can add value,
and everything. But through those conversations, again, going back to, well, I need to create my own income stream. So I started looking online. I was saying to myself, well, how do I kind of do both? And so I started thinking and thought to myself, well, buy a laundromat or a car wash or something. Let me find a business that's for sale. This might be stupid or naive, but my thought process was, there's got to be some businesses that are not either not doing well because of the pandemic, or the pandemic made owners that were like on the cusp of retiring and made them say, like, screw, like, this is not worth the headache, right? So I'm thinking maybe I can.
And that's opportunistic on your
100%.
Your
100%. So I'm thinking, let me get a business that does well otherwise, maybe is hurting a little bit right now, maybe is run absentee. I can come in, I can give it some love, boost revenue, see it through the pandemic, and then maybe install a manager, maybe flip it and sell it, like who knows, and go and or again, maybe just a laundromat that I don't even really have to do anything anyway, and it just creates a little bit of cash register. It's just an investment.
Sure.
And then go get a job. And through that, I found a what we call a hoagie shop, a sandwich shop to some people, a sub shop, to a grinder shop.
Grinders, wedges,
whatever.
wherever
you're
back
from,
to our
a high quality
regional dialect.
But we're like a suburb of Philadelphia, so we have really quality bread and these quality Italian meats. Like it's an Italian, South Philly's an Italian mecca of meats. And so I stumbled on this franchise called Primo Hoagies that is, I'm going to say I stumbled on the franchise. I've known it since high school. There was one in our town. But it's really small, local, regional. It's been around for 20 years. There's still like less than 100 of them or something like that.
Damn, are they tasty?
I know. Well, that's the thing. Everybody you talk to in this area, at least, right? It's the best at what they do. And so found one that kind of fit the exact bill of what I was looking for. It was distressed because of the pandemic. The guy had health issues. He needed to get out. Like, he just didn't want to deal with the pandemic and trying to, so it was struggling. It was at a discount. So it was kind of marriage made in heaven. However, that wasn't going to be the absentee business. That like, a restaurant, a food business, that's pretty hands-on, which is fine.
Right.
So I looked at the numbers, and it would generate enough cash for me to live off of, which is all that really matters, like enough to just get by till I figured out the next step. Because no matter what, owning a hoagie shop isn't going to be, it's not the step, it's not the end. So as long as step one can generate enough income to live.
Right, it's not the destination, it's the next rung in the ladder.
Yeah, but it needs to just generate enough revenue that I can get by, and it looked like it would. So much talking, my stick went out. But so I figured I'd go all in on that. But through the due diligence period, what I found is that I really fell in love with the Primo Hoagies franchise, the company, the people at headquarters, the business model, the revenue structure and everything. What I fell out of love with was that specific location.
I remember being really bummed when you told me where it was, because it's probably about
45 minutes.
45 minutes away from where we are. I was like, man, if my buddy's going to open something, I want to be able to frequent it and to be, to enjoy, that with you. So hearing that you're looking a little closer to your area is nice.
Yeah, 100%. And so the location's about 45 minutes away, but again, a great deal. And I figure, you know what, I got to drive 45 minutes every day. It is what it is. It's only temporary until I install a manager or figure something out, which was actually probably naive. And it's probably best that I just fell out of love with that location, because the reality is I probably would have been driving 45 minutes each way for 6 months,
knowing
7 days a week.
You're going to be there. You're going to be sleeping in the back. Cause
I would have. Exactly. 100%.
We'd be filming episodes in the back.
We'd film some episodes of Primo Hoagies, in another town. So I was going to buy that one, and luckily it fell apart. But what was interesting is the day that I made the decision not to buy that, I also simultaneously made the decision that I was going to open a new location in a new territory that didn't have Primos.
That's awesome.
In one day. And this girl that I was friends with, and this, again, it's not to pat myself on the back. I think it's a little inspirational. I think people can maybe draw something from it, which is this friend of mine texted me, and she said, how's your day going on a Monday? I said, it's going fucking fantastic. I was like, I had this opportunity that seemed like a really good opportunity in the short term, but I don't think it was going to be good for me long term. But it was like, looked really good now. Yeah. But I had the courage to turn it down. And then there's this other opportunity which is going to be really hard in the short term, but better for me long term. And I had the courage to do that, like in the same day.
I remember you saying that exact thing to me, and I was like, that personifies who you are. Or at least the person that I knew. Like, obviously, like, we knew each other a little bit, you know.
Of course.
But, like, who you are, like, who
Yeah.
you are sitting here at 38 on your birthday, I was like, that's the dude. Like, who will sacrifice.
I ran out of whiskey, and then I was like going to trying to figure it out. So luckily, I knew I had a low bottle, so I brought another bottle out.
There you go.
So this one is this one's one of my more recent favorites. I think I had this on the air before, Black Ridge. This is port barrel finished bourbon. I've kind of had.
You've been digging the stuff that's finished in the sweeter.
This is the one
barrels.
that turned me on to that, and frankly, it's been sitting. You know, this is the first one, and I drank it down super fast because I loved it, and then I bought some others, and I've just had this sitting on my counter, not like saving it for a special occasion, but it's one of those, you know, it's your last one. It's like when you're eating food, and it's like the best thing on your plate, and you save it for the end.
Or it's that cigar that you and I go, we're not going to smoke that
Yeah.
one because it's my last one, you know?
So I think you're going to have to drive me to go get dinner after we're done shooting.
Sounds good to me. Luckily, we're filming this early enough.
I know, yeah, early on a Tuesday, holiday week. It's like no rules, right, for the next, what's today, the 22nd? So like, really for like the next 10 days.
Yeah, after tomorrow,
Almost,
I could kind of be a little bit of a degenerate. It'll be kinda
Basically,
cool.
like, I mean, dude, it's like, yeah. This is as close as we get to like college spring break
Oh,
as adults
100%.
is the week between Christmas and New Year's.
and to tie into what you were saying, like, I know people in the education field that now that COVID hit, were like, I'm going to take that, you know, I was going to wait a year or two to retire, you know, they're gone.
Okay,
You know what
so
I mean?
so yeah, so I
Teachers,
missed the
all that.
step, right? So what happened when I was looking for a business to buy, I decided I don't know what I don't know, and I've got a couple pennies jingling around, so I figured, let me go find a broker, like a business broker
Right.
that normally sells businesses, and let me see if I can find a consultant to help navigate this. And so I found a guy who's a broker, and he advertised consultative services to potential buyers.
Okay.
So almost so I was going to him not to look at his businesses, but I was going to him to say like, hey, I want to buy a business, like represent me and like show me the ropes.
Okay.
So when I called him, he was like, look, man, he's like, dude, like with the pandemic, I'm too busy. He's like, I'm selling so many businesses, I can't do consultations anymore. He's like, as soon as businesses come up, they're just selling. And I said to him, I was like, all right, well, I hear you. I appreciate it. Let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, here I am, software executive, looking for an investment, and but I don't have to show up and a laundromat, whatever. He was like, yeah, you and everybody else. He's like, every software executive.
Oh, you want something where you don't have to,
Well, it's
put
not
in the
that.
hours. And not that you don't want to work
Yeah,
hard,
yeah.
but you wanted to kind of put on autopilot.
But
and
not
do
just
shit?
that, it's the whole story. He was like, yeah, you and every other software executive that is on break because of COVID, like is reaching out. Yeah, he
Right.
painted the whole story. He's like, yeah, all of you are trying to do the same thing. I'm like, fuck.
Hence why I'm busy. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm selling
exactly.
businesses.
Exactly. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, all right. Once again, I'm
You're
not
not the only Eric Allen. in
Yeah,
this
once again, I'm not a special snowflake. So, all right. So I
Who
said
else
to him,
you
I
are?
said, all right, man. All right, no problem. And as we're hanging up, though, he says, well, look, I do have one business that's coming up for sale, and that was the Primo Hoagies.
Yeah, because you had said it wasn't
on the website.
there
It
yet.
wasn't for sale yet, like publicly. Yeah, I just got lucky that I called that guy. But it just led to this whole spiral. But the point is, that's interesting, and I want to be clear that this isn't a like, if you've been thinking about doing something, now's the time to jump. Not at all. My message would be more like if you've been struggling to figure out like your passion and what you want to do, like it's not like, oh, if you've been thinking about starting a business, do that. Like
This isn't your
you
Gary
don't have to start
Vaynerchuk.
yeah,
However
Gary
you say his
V.
last
Like
name.
you're a fucking pussy unless you do everything amazing in life,
Right.
man. No, but actually I will say I heard one message from him recently, which is actually in line with what I'm about to share, which is like, no, not everybody's not meant to start a business, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so and everybody has their own, and that's why I'm going with a franchise. And I wanted at first an established business. I'm starting one from scratch, but it's a franchise, so there's still a bit of a safety blanket. We all have our own individual risk tolerances.
yeah.
I had somebody tell me if I open a franchise, I'm a pussy, and like they straight up said that to me, which is like fine, whatever,
But-
man.
And I remember when you and I were like, say sandwiches were your passion. How difficult in this day and age to be like Eric's famous, like say your grandfather made the best hoagie ever,
Right.
and you got his family recipe.
It's next to impossible now in this area.
matter.
In this
Doesn't
area,
matter what-
because
Wawa's
because
right
Primos
there,
exist.
Primos exists. It doesn't matter.
But anyway, yeah. So the point is too, so in 2020, I got out of a relationship, got out of a job. Found a new hobby, starting a passion. We're about to release T-shirts in Q1 at some time. We're going to release an apparel line for cedar culture that's going to snowball into other things purely as the hobby aspect. Hopefully, it generates some cash, but purely as the hobby. That's starting now, and dropped a big check, signed an agreement to go open a franchise. That's my 2020, and so it doesn't have to.
And that doesn't make you a pussy,
right?
Nothing for like whoever that was. I just love like we talked about in all our episodes, like smoke what you want to smoke. Like I just love when you're telling people what you're going to do to better yourself and to, I almost want to say step out of your comfort zone because it's not
super.
what you're doing.
Like I'm doing something.
Just because you're passionate and you have a good work ethic doesn't mean everything you're going to, you know what I mean? It's
right.
going to take you effort, work. And, I texted you this morning early thinking I was texting you early and you're like, yeah, I've been up since 2:30, doing business proposals. And
I couldn't
doing
sleep last night. So,
I mean.
I fell asleep on the couch at 11 p.m. last night. I woke up at 2:30 on the couch, went into bed, lay there for 2 hours, not falling asleep. So at 4:30, I got up and started clanking away at the business plan that I need, to get the loan for the business, which I don't necessarily need the loan, but from a business perspective, it makes so much sense to take a loan, just because the way interest works and everything. That could be a whole separate topic.
Right.
In fact, the guy that I'm working with at Primo's headquarters is a cigar smoker. And it's kind of interesting how you can bond over things, right? So the first time I was talking to him, and I asked him about, I just happened to mention, hey, like we were connecting on the phone. You can just tell when you hit it off with somebody. And I was like, hey, do you smoke cigars? And he was like, actually, as a matter of fact, my two passions are cigars and wine. I love cigars and wine.
There you go.
And it also happens that he just moved here for this job. His fiance is not even in town yet, whatever. So a week later, I go to sign the contract to meet him in person. I actually gave him an archetype. I don't know if I told you about that. Yes, I brought
Sage Advice?
Yep, brought him a Sage Advice because I had a box of 20 and why not?
They're a good stick.
Oh, it's a great stick. And it's funny when I gave it to him because we did an episode on it. And so when I gave it to him, I said, hey, just so you know, like I don't know what your flavor profile is, so I brought you something a little bit more mild. It's a fantastic stick. I said, but just so you know, the first few puffs, like it took us about 10 puffs because I didn't want him to judge it,
no,
right?
No, it's true.
And he called me. That was last Friday. So that was last Friday. I talked to him yesterday after the weekend. And he said, by the way, man, that cigar was great. I was like, yeah. I said, did you?
First?
And he was like, dude, you were 100% right. It just got better as it went.
Which
is awesome, yeah.
We're different from something like this, where you get that intense flavor from the sweetness of the wrapper and the aromatic process or whatever it is. You're getting all these flavors up front. I was actually going to ask you, as we were talking about the stick a little bit.
What are my flavors up front?
Well, that, and do you find yourself retrohaling?
No, I was joking. So you're like the flavors up front, and I was about to ask you. I was gonna say, oh, what are my flavors up front? And you're like, well, yeah, but not just that.
Well, all of it,
My flavors in the back. You want to know my back flavors?
Oh, I know your back flavors. But just like I've been on such a retrohale kick of getting some of those nuances. Like now on this, like you don't really have to, but I kind of am a little bit.
So it's interesting. I'm glad you asked or brought it up because in reading about this before I smoked it, specifically the leather rose, Vitola. So this is one, a slightly different blend than that, but it's going to ring true for that too. I've read as always, the description and review and everything on Half Wheel before the episode, and the guy said almost every cigar you can benefit from the retrohale, but not on this one because it's this combination of like the sweet tip and that spicy aromaticness of the blend really play well together. When you retrohale, you're not getting that sweet tip. And I think that's why it tastes so infused and so flavored. I think is my guess is just that it's got that natural spiciness of the tobacco.
Yep.
And it's got that sweetened tip, and combined, it almost tastes like a candy. It just tastes like it has to be flavored, even if it's not.
What I like about giving something like this to a newer cigar smoker is you don't have to work hard to get what the cigar is supposed to be.
It's just enjoyable. It just tastes good.
It tastes good. You can sit around and not really think about it because there are some cigars where like we'll joke and be like, "Are you getting aged leather or dark cocoa powder versus light cocoa powder?"
Cocoa powder grown on the south side of the hill versus the north side of the hill.
Man, I'm already gotten to take the.
Dude, yours. Oh, I forgot. I'm talking the whole time. So tell me about your 2020. So I'm kidding, but well, I'm not kidding, of course, but I'm kidding in that you don't need to go talk for 20 minutes now while I catch up.
No, but I like, it's so exciting to kind of, like, I don't have that in me to be like, I want to be a business owner. I mean, there are things that I want to do, like, but that scare me enough to kind of keep me in my lane of knowing my strengths and weaknesses. But there are things that where, hobby-wise, like cigars, sports, other things where I would definitely step out of my comfort zone to do that because I feel like I have a little bit of knowledge base. I think I could offer something in that space. But you're like taking that leap. So for anyone to kind of look at that and judge it from a negative perspective, it just shows like all of their insecurities.
Oh, 100%.
Like they're spouting things that they were probably told that kept them in their safe little world too. They're just kind of regurgitating it.
Completely going off the rails for a second here. So, well, actually not completely, because fun fact, right? Fact of the episode. I've actually got two. One I learned the other day that I was going to bring in to this episode. The other one I learned between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. this morning while I was laying in bed.
That's a scary thing.
And I don't even know how I got here, but I'm hoping you don't know this because it's a story. All right, so I'm gonna enter the story through the back door.
Tarantino-wise, we're gonna start at the ending and work our way back.
Kind of,
Reservoir Dogs style?
Yeah, Reservoir Dog style. Let's do this. All right, so when we started Cedar Culture Podcast, you thought it would be cool to start on like episode 2, and just to say that, like, almost as our inside joke, right? And so people would just kind of always wonder if we ever got fans, if we ever got big, whatever. Like
Tvert, we're
viewers,
looking at you.
and Jay, then it would be our joke. We never wound up going through with it, whatever. There's a band that, and you're not going to guess the band based off of this, but I'm going to keep going. So there's a band that did something similar.
I'm going to try.
They only released 2 albums. It was their name of their band that I'm not going to share yet, Volume 1, and then the next one was Volume 3. Now, there's 5 people in the band.
Is it the Traveling Wilburys?
Fuck you, man. Fuck. Like, I really thought I was going to be pulling out, like...
Super group. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
but I kind of...
Until now.
Yeah. So I give you props for knowing that, but you know what's funny? I have 1 and 3, and I realized, like, I got to, like, because I finally got Apple Music, which my friends are like, dude, you're like Rain Man Musical Encyclopedia. You are built for, or Apple Music was built for you.
I don't know anything about Apple Music that makes it so bad. Is it better than Pandora and Spotify?
I don't know, because I've always just done the free trial of stuff.
Okay.
I just always like the fact that, like, I own this music. I purchased it. Now I'm like, all this
Oh, you
stuff
purchased by the song?
Or
like
album.
iTunes?
Yeah.
Oh, it's iTunes.
So what it's giving you is it's giving you access to everything on iTunes, but you just don't own it. So you can add it to your library. You can add it to your device.
Or you can buy it, or no? You don't. You
well,
said
you
buy.
You pay. We did the family plan.
Oh, you paid money.
That's
that's Spotify.
Exactly.
Spotify then.
Just gives you access to all this stuff. So it's funny going into, like, remembering some
So
of the stuff
how
I
did you-
wanted. How
so-
did I know that?
Yeah. How did you know the band? So I don't even
How do I
know
know the band?
Yeah.
I like their stuff.
So there's a couple things that I learned about, like, through this that were amazing to me.
Petty,
So there's 5 people, only 4 on the second album. I'm assuming because one of them died. When did Roy Orbison die?
Roy Orbison might not have been on it. It was George Harrison.
He wasn't on the last one. He wasn't on the last one. So I wrote everybody down. So it sounds like from the reading I did, it sounded like George Harrison was kind of his brainchild, and he brought in Bob Dylan. They were doing some stuff together.
Right.
And then, I don't know the exact order, they bring in Jeff Lynne, who's the least notable of the group. Maybe if you're an audiophile,
Right.
that might be blasphemy. He might be like the best musician of the group. But he's from, was he from ELO maybe?
ELO.
All right. And then Tom Petty and Roy Orbison. But, like, reading some of the stuff, just, again, like, scrolling through Wikipedia and this and that, like there's a quote from, like, Tom Petty or somebody who, like, he was the youngest, Tom Petty, and I think it could have been Jeff Lynne, 'cause I don't know shit about him. But Tom Petty,
He's gonna watch this.
he talked about how he was just being regaled by the stories of Roy Orbison talking about stories of playing with Elvis.
Oh yeah.
Like, how fucking cool is that, right?
Imagine being in that room, like, with all those people.
So now here's a quote though. This is a quote from George Harrison when they came out with their second album and they called it Volume 3. George Harrison literally said the phrase, "Let's confuse the buggers."
I like that. So hey, I'm in good company.
But that quote is from Jeff Lynne. Jeff Lynne is the one that said that he quoted George Harrison.
Oh.
Yeah, so I shouldn't cast him away because that's a good quote. But then, yeah, and then here's the other thing. When we were kids, Tom Petty came out with the Wildflowers album, like the 90s at some point. And I thought that was a big comeback from a while ago from his old career in the 70s, which it kind of was. What I didn't know is this band, the Traveling Wilburys, is what's credited for reviving Tom Petty's career.
Huh. Okay,
According to a couple sources that I read.
And then Tom Petty, obviously before he passed away untimely, got back together with his first band,
Mudcrutch.
Mudcrutch.
What was Mudhoney? Was
Mudhoney
band.
was like a '90s.
That was a
grunge
grunge.
band,
Yeah. That was a predecessor to Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had connections, but yeah, in and around that time, I think Pearl Jam might have toured with Mudhoney, like early on.
I
But
thought
yeah,
they.
Mudcrutch.
What?
No, that's Mother Love Bone. Mother
Okay.
Love Bone, the lead singer died. Chris Cornell, they do Temple of the Dog, and that led to.
It's so crazy.
It is.
Now that's a cool world, man. Can you imagine?
And then, like, I have all my stuff on my old iPod, and my son's getting into music, and stuff from like Audio Slave came on, and stuff from like Velvet Revolver.
Does he like that stuff?
He likes rock, like he likes some of the hard stuff that I like. Not that that's hard, but
Right.
the stuff that I used to be afraid of and skip right past. He's like, no, Dad, I want to hear that. Even my newly 7-year-old daughter is like she likes the fast punk.
Dude, that was
stuff.
9 Inch Nails for me in high school. Like people would wear the NIN shirts and
Yeah.
stuff. I avoided it because I thought it was like like you said, not scary, but like not my thing. Right?
Devil come
Not
out of
really.
the album
But
cover.
like yeah, just like I don't know, like not my thing. But here, something funny. Fast forward till I was in the Marine Corps, I was doing security gigs on the side, and I happened to do security at a 9 Inch Nails concert.
Really?
And-
I didn't know that about you.
Really? Yeah.
We did both the music security stuff. That's
Dude,
cool.
I got some cool, not cool stories, but like fun stuff. But
Yeah.
so that and 9 Inch Nails was that. What was cool about the 9 Inch Nails show was a couple things. One was I learned how many 9 Inch Nails songs I actually knew.
Mm-hmm.
That like so when I was looking at people's T-shirts and like when I was in middle school, like oh like that band, that's like a hard band. Turns out I actually probably liked some of their songs. I didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it.
And then what was really cool about that show though, so this is in San Diego in 2005, I'll say. Mm-hmm. And 9 Inch Nails is playing, and there's a ton of like dudes that were in their 30s with like their 12-year-old kid.
Really?
Yeah, like it was just cool to see because it's a chill show. It's not nobody's moshing or anything. Like what I mean, it's everybody's in the stands and so many adults with their kids. But the other big one that I'll just hit on real quick, like, since we hit this topic, which was music security, was when I did the Rolling Stones. I never told you about that. So
You may have, but
I was in between. My position was in between the stage and front row, facing the crowd, and that was the big thing. You can't look at the band; you got to face the crowd. But it's freaking Rolling Stones. Like nobody's, people paid $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever for
Right.
front row seats. They're not really, But until the very end of the show, when I'm still just looking at the crowd, and don't get me wrong, I looked back at stage plenty, but I'm looking at the crowd, and all of a sudden, everybody starts bum rushing, trying to get over this movable barrier.
Right,
and
right,
that
those
was like,
metal-
those little metal ones,
Yep.
exactly. And I was like, what? And then I saw they were all kind of reaching their hand down. I looked down, and there's a pick at my foot.
No
and I
way.
pick it up, and it's just a white pick with the red tongue. And I look behind me, and there's like Keith Richards, like chilling there. Like he threw a pick, and because it's thin and flat, it probably fluttered and fell at my feet.
Did you keep it?
No, I handed it to somebody.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Really good of you.
Yeah.
To crazy tie this all together.
Yeah.
So I worked security at the old Tweeter Center, which is now what the heck?
BBT?
Wachovia Center?
BBT.
Oh, is it BB&T?
Oh wait, you said Tweeter. The one in Camden, right?
Yeah, Camden on the waterfront.
BBT. Yeah.
Okay. So that's what it is now. It went through 17 changes probably since we were in high school. I worked security at a Tom Petty concert, and
Wait, this would have been later. I was gonna say, maybe I was there because I went to a Tom Petty concert at that venue, but I was in high school.
Okay,
I was a senior. Well, you're a couple years
okay,
older than
but
me.
No. It was my summer. You were there then.
I was
It
there.
was my summer between sophomore and junior year.
Fun fact
How
about-
many? Were you only a year? When did you graduate high school?
A one?
I was 99. Dude, you were at that concert.
I was at that concert. You were doing security. So fun fact about that concert for me was that in high school it was the only concert I went to sober, and I remember the least of it. I don't even know why.
It's memorable for me. A girl, back then it was kind of popular to take like those
Molly?
weight control pills.
Xenogen?
Like that
Xenogen
kind of
was
stuff.
the big one.
Stacker? Was it Stacker?
Stacker was the big one. The big one that was Xenogen that got outlawed.
Maybe it was Xenogen or Stacker, whatever. This girl starts convulsing. They called me and my friend over. I'm trying to talk her through. She's like 15, 16, 17 maybe,
Yeah.
young high school. And she's like, well, I knew we were going to be drinking and I didn't want to gain weight, so I took a bunch of Stack. So she was taking Stacker, so her heart rate, dude, I think she ended up like not making it to the hospital.
Really?
She was like, please don't call my parents. I was like, sweetheart, you're like not looking good right now. Like,
Yeah.
Your parents being in trouble is the least of your worries right now.
Dude, that shit'll fuck you up. Like, so that probably was Stacker. Stacker was the big one that was sold at like gas stations and stuff.
Yellow and blue
Yeah.
or something.
Xenadrin though was the big one that was sold
That's
at,
the
like,
stuff we were still looking for in college to like cut weight.
to cut
I was
weight.
like,
Xenadrin was
hey.
the stuff because it had ephedrine in it.
Right.
That stuff that get outlawed. I knew a guy in the Marine Corps. He was trying out for reconnaissance, and he took some because part of it was like a 10-mile hump with all this weight for time and stuff.
It's crazy.
And
it really
he
just
died.
depletes your water.
He came back like he died like twice. It was one of those stories
But
like he
is that
died
what
twice.
It does? It like depletes the water. Like I don't know what it was
Well,
supposed
it's
to do
like
to you.
I think a big part of it is probably definitely part of it. I would think, but part of it, I mean,
But
your
so,
heart rate and stuff. Yeah.
One of the most memorable concerts I worked because that I remember that girl so vividly. That year I also got my ass kicked at a Britney Spears concert.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You're a big dude. How?
So again, working security. It's the summer, and you were always partnered. So it'd be me and you working I always worked alone.
Now, for your security experience, for me,
I didn't do stage.
Well,
I
hold
would
on, real
love to
quick.
have
Hold
walked them back
on.
from stage.
So, from my experience that I had, it's a third-party company that gets contracted to the venue, and quite literally, and anybody that's been to a sporting event knows this, right? Like most of the security guards are like they'll hire people in wheelchairs, like special needs people. They'll hire like people that because half of the job is ushering, kind of in a way, depending on your station. But for me, being a young guy in the Marines, it was fucking awesome. Dude, I did sideline security for a whole season of home games for the San Diego Chargers. One of my roles was ushering the cheerleaders like around the stadium.
I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And so like I would go to these things and they would look around, right? And it would be like Paul Blart, Paul Blart, Paul Blart, Eric Allen. Okay, you get stage.
Were you ever like getting the C-level cheerleaders? Like, hey.
No, dude.
Oh, you get in trouble, right?
I will say though that when I was close up with the cheerleaders, there was not a single one I would be proud to date. And this was the San Diego Chargers cheerleaders, based on their face. Not a single one I would be proud to date.
Wow, interesting. So going back to me getting my ass kicked at Britney Spears. So I was a sweeper. I worked the lawn section. So I was a general admission, which you see the funnest
That's
stuff.
a rough.
there.
So
It
did you
was
always
rough.
work that venue?
Yeah, I was just. I was.
So you were
I was
an employee of
I was
that.
an employee of that.
I
the
was
theater
contracted.
center.
So you were probably
a
part of like a
contractor.
real security.
So you were, but I would consider you guys real security because it was always the real security guys because the bands were always in charge of bringing their people that would walk them do the backstage
That wasn't
stuff.
us, though.
So that wasn't.
No,
you
we were
more stage
literally
control.
venue. Like we were the people that got the big yellow jackets. That
Right.
Event
We were.
staff.
I was the yellow staff shirt.
Yeah.
Right.
But we were always contracted. So, and I mean, the way I got into it, I was stationed out in San Diego, and they needed people. So the company.
How did you hear about it? Like they contracted the Marines?
They contacted the Marine base or somebody with the
That's
unit,
cool.
and they did this thing because you had to get like certified.
Right.
So they did these things.
Had to be an easy certification for you. being a
Well,
Marine.
it wasn't even. I don't even know what it was. Maybe it wasn't even certification. Maybe it was like a conversation. They're like, "Yeah, you're good enough." So what they did was they needed people. So they came to probably all the units. I don't know, but they did. There was a day. It was almost like a career day.
Okay.
But it wasn't career. It was just one guy that came into a room. It was like, "Hey, if you're interested in doing part-time security work, come." Dude, it was like, this is 2005. It was $12 an hour. I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, I was making like $600 every 2 weeks. So like a $12 an hour job where I could work 10 hours in the week. Dude, I did overnight at the San Diego Convention Center. I did overnight car show.
Wow.
Like, and so, dude, you do an overnight car show. You're taking home after taxes $100. When you're making $600 every 2 weeks or something like that.
$100 night is unheard of.
Well, and really, it's a $200 night because they're making $100 instead of spending $100.
That's true. That's really true.
Yeah.
And you got to enjoy whatever the time.
And
you
it
were
was
there.
always with a buddy. Like we were
Yeah.
that in my unit. Like it was awesome.
I worked Ozfest, and I remember
That's cool.
taking my security shirt off when Black Sabbath came out, and I went in the pit. And, like,
Did you?
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
knew because like it was a summer job. I knew it was going to end. I was like, if I
Yeah.
get in trouble, I'm at. I couldn't get tickets to Ozfest, but I could work it.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of cool.
I'm trying to think if I had any other like really fun one. I know I did. Like, but the big ones that I really enjoyed were Nine Inch Nails and Rolling Stones, and
Nice.
then doing all those.
I got to see Buffett. I broke up like two 50-year-old people having sex on the lawn.
Well, dude,
and Buffett.
if you did like a whole summer at Tweeter, then you saw like a lot of good shows.
Dave Matthews, like I got to see some good stuff.
I lost my V card at that concert venue in high school.
No way.
Yeah, I'll tell you more about it later. But
I
yeah.
cannot wait to hear that. So it wasn't you that I broke up having sex with on the lawn, right?
No.
Jimmy Buffett, right?
No, because I'll tell you more about it later.
We'll tell it off camera.
Yeah.
So I'm in my security shirt. While it was still light out, we would kind of split up because you could see it's the day, in the summer it stays late, not like 4:30 where it's pitch black here in the winter. But a 16-year-old girl comes to me. She's like, "Mr. Security Guy," and I'm thinking like I'm all big in bed. I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "There's a guy bothering us. Can you please come?" I was like, "Sure." I get to be the superhero.
Oh, this
Perfect.
is your fight story, or your ass kicking story.
Yeah, I wish it was the fight story. There was no fighting. It was me getting my ass kicked. So I'm thinking it's like, she's 16. I'm thinking it's like a 15, 16-year-old kid messing with them. So literally a dude in Adidas swish pants, the ones that like button down the sides, and a white, like a brand new white wife beater, and jacked.
Did you have a radio?
No radio. You were a flashlight. I had a big mag light. And if you got into trouble, you were supposed to point it at the sky where you were and wave it around. Well, it's light out, so that doesn't really help me. So this dude jacked, roided up to the 9th degree. And he's obviously completely messed up on some form of substance. And literally, he's like trying to touch the girls. Like, it was uncomfortable even to watch as a spectator. I was like, "Hey, bud," I was like, maybe hang out with someone, girls your own age. He freaks out, rips his shirt off, goes over to the back concession, kind of where the brick wall is, and starts punching it. His hands are bleeding. So I'm like,
he doesn't give a heck that they're
like,
bleeding.
This is
so
not going to be good. So literally starts taking his frustration out on me. He kind of gets me in a lock. He's throwing in some punches. I remember my security shirt was bloody with his blood.
Yeah.
So I'm like holding my flashlight up, which is doing nothing because it's like 6 o'clock at night in the summer, still light out. Luckily, I was able to get my big mag light and literally just take right in his solar plexus.
The end of it.
Dropped him. And enough time for my other buddy to come down and they carried him away. But literally,
he actually got taken away though.
Oh,
yeah. That hit put him out?
That enough to get him off of me, where then...
But they were able to hold him?
3, 4, 5 guys, and he was still coming after me. Like, he was out of his gourd. Like,
Yeah.
He was
Did he
on
land
something.
shots on you?
Oh, yeah. I was hurt. I was hurt.
Wait, did you get like workman's comp or anything?
I wasn't like in the hospital. I
Yeah.
still worked. Like, I worked
You
that
stayed the
shift.
rest of-
Yeah, my bloody shirt.
Were you
walked
like,
around
were
Britney
you
Spears.
moused up? Like, did you have a...
They
Did
made
he dye
me
your
go.
eye?
They made me go get cleaned up because I had.
Oh,
like,
did
this
you have to get a
dude's
new
blood
shirt
on
and
me,
stuff?
New shirt, and they like wanted to clean me up and like make sure I didn't have whatever communicable diseases that this fine young member of society had. Wow. But it was just a fun summer. Me and Matt worked, but we always got split up. Matt Palish, the guy.
It was the guy you did the morning
show
announcements with. Yeah.
We just thought it'd be a great summer job.
Oh, it is a
They
great
always
summer
put him in the seats, and me being a big goon, they put me in the lawn.
Well, that's a great job. That was a great job for me in the Marines. But
fun.
for you, I mean, you kind of lost your summer. That's like weekends and...
I did lose my summer, but I got to I was always into music. It was like the best
Dude,
of
you
both
get to
worlds.
see
I
so
knew it
many
was
shows when you
short
do that.
lived.
I wish I bet I'll remember more shows later. I did a high school basketball game one time.
I still want to try to get in the way security guards would get in because it wasn't a very secure system. I'll tell you off air so people aren't not liable.
Sure, dude, it's 20 years. I'm sure it's
That's
different.
true. I'm sure it's very different. But when I tell you, it was like nothing. And then they were making us stupid. Remember the XTU did the country show? It was
They still
free.
do.
They still do the
It's not free, I don't think, but...
I remember getting sleeves
Maybe
of
they don't still,
Skull
but up until a
back
few
when I
reasons.
was dipping in college.
Dude,
Sleeves.
Because, wait, isn't it funny? I think I know the answer. Why did you dip? Or how did you get into dipping? Like, what got you in who got you in, what got you into dipping?
My buddy in college was a baseball player.
I was going to say athletes because
you can do it inside.
It's healthy.
Yeah.
Well, no,
better for
because
your
your
lungs.
lungs. That's what I mean. Quote healthy. Like
I just patted the
dude,
mic.
that's like in high school.
You couldn't tell.
In high school, all the wrestlers were dippers,
Mm-hmm.
but it travels through the athlete circles. Bunch of dudes really close. Everybody else is trying cigarettes for the first time. You can't because you're an athlete. And
I'm not gonna lie, they had flavor, they had cherry,
cherries,
wintergreen, and this.
dude.
But
Cope Straight, man. I was a Cope Straight guy.
that got me into chewing, and I really got into
Red Man Golden Blend.
Red Man and Beech Nut, the straight flavors. Now that I'm a cigar guy, it got me back to those were the flavors I liked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I liked the Beech Nut.
Red Man
I liked
Golden Blend was just like honey sweet. Like it was like this.
Right.
It was good.
So it's just kind of enjoyable. So funny kind of circle of events. So we were both music security people, and I didn't know that. There's another thing we kind of share. I know we're music lovers.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is dope. So Yeah, what else did I do? So I did.
Trying to think of other funny, dumb stories. I broke up people having sex with Jimmy Buffett, people peeing on the wall. Oh,
My best music venue stories I can't share, and they're not when I was in security.
did you have the same experience as me? Is there were other guys that almost had like, I don't want to say little man syndrome, but like they put on a security shirt and they thought they were like kings?
That's where we had very different experiences.
Right,
It sounded
we
like
were
you
with
had
the
like
Marines.
real security people. We had of our unit, only me and like one other guy I think that who's my friend are the ones that actually did it. So nobody else on the security team was a Marine. We were the only ones. Everybody else, I'm telling you, like they were special needs, wheelchairs, obese. You know.
So us now.
Yeah, exactly.
So they'd be
But
hiring us now.
basically. But that's why I got like all the good spots. But yeah, we did
it
a
was
lot of fun
kinda
stuff
cool,
too.
like-
Yeah, like even a high school football, or rather a high school basketball game, which was kind of funny because we were there and we're like, I do remember at certain points like the game got tense and we're like, is this gonna be like the event that we have to actually do something? It's
I'd
gonna
be
be a
more
high
afraid
school
at the
game.
high school
Yeah, because
basketball
they have
game
nothing to
than-
lose. They're in high school. They have nothing to lose.
They're not adult. They're right. Their parents just yell at them. you
Yeah,
know?
they have nothing to lose. Or no.
They
We
didn't
had
know
we
they
had to
nothing
be at that
lose.
high school because they grew up without parents that yell at them and tell them to do. Yeah.
Very good point. Very, very, very fair point. And that was kind of before the era of camera phones, so no one was recording any of it. So it's like I could punch you and get away with it. You know, I could do something stupid. But they weren't friends. They just happened to be coworkers that literally would go confiscate drugs off of you and then go sell it to someone else.
Sell
And
it.
I'm like, you have to go walk through the parking lot without your special magic yellow staff shirt later tonight. I was always the guy that was like, hey guys, I want you to enjoy what you're doing, but there are undercover cops here. Please be careful. I never touched anything. I never took anything. I remember someone taking glass pipes, throwing them over and hearing it smash on the rocks behind there. I'm like, you have to walk to your car by yourself later.
Do you know what's funny is, all right, so I have 3 fantastic stories from Tweeter. One is the V card. I can't tell that on air. Another one, maybe I'll tell. Let's see how I feel in another drink.
I was going to say, after your birthday bourbon.
The other one I'll tell, and it's not good, but I was in high school, so who cares? Nitrous was the drug of choice at that venue back then. Do you remember that?
I think the guy who kicked my ass must have been on everything.
Nitrous, he wouldn't have been on nitrous. Nitrous was like a thing that, it's like they either come in big tanks, it's nitrous.
And then they filled them in like the little balloons or the little
in
capsules.
In balloons. So the little capsules, you know, those are ones that you can buy. It's like, it's CO2, or no, it's NO2, nitrous dioxide. So, and you put it in a cracker, and you fill a balloon. Or at concerts, people will buy huge tanks of it.
And have it in like their back seat.
Yeah, or dude, it was crazy back then. Like they would be filling balloons, and then if the cops were coming, they would just take the tank and like roll it under a car real quick. Like it was a whole thing. We were in high school, whatever. But so again, all right. So two of the stories involve that. One, the story that I'll tell. So again, high school, I was smoking cigarettes, and I drove. I was the DD, which back then meant like the drunk driver, unfortunately. And I was smoking cigarettes. I was walking to my car after the show, and it was like one of those things where before I pulled my car out of the parking lot, like I'm kicking beer bottles and like boxes, not mine, but like other people's, like trying to create a path for me to get out of the parking spot without rolling over bottles or anything. So while I'm walking around doing that with my cigarette, I remember it clear as day. I'm just standing there with my cigarette at this point, and this woman who has a nitrous balloon in her hand turns, random stranger, her balloon hits my cigarette and pops. And she's like, yeah, you popped my balloon, whatever. And I was like, sorry, like, whatever, like, wasn't my fault, whatever. I don't know. Her boyfriend, who looks a lot like, in my mind's eye, looks a lot like Steve Perry from Journey, right? but like, realistically, he was probably like 24. Because I was in high school, you know what I mean? But in my mind,
he was
like,
an adult.
He's like 35-year-old Steve Perry, right? So, you know, so the guy kind of starts going off. I'm like, yeah, fuck you, this, that, whatever. I get in my car. I had a extended cab, which extended cab trucks back then typically, like, it wasn't like, it was a 2-door. Like, trucks have gotten huge now, but back then, like, it was tiny. So I had like a couple girls shoved in the back seat, which is really a tiny bench, and then this dude in the front seat. I'll tell you his name off air, but like, he was a man among boys. He was the type of guy that had a goatee in like 5th grade.
Yeah,
like,
I remember them.
And he's in my passenger seat. So I'm trying to just get out of there, and the woman she's still spouting off, but now she's over in the passenger seat, spouting off. And my friend is like, "You effing see you next Tuesday. Get out of here." And so her man, Steve Perry.
The word you're not supposed to call.
But this is how Steve Perry goes. "Excuse me, you just called her that word. I don't have a choice. I have to call you out now." Like that's how it went down. And
Here's
so
written notice.
And so my friend, who now we're like juniors in summer before senior year at high school.
Wow.
He goes, "Are you serious?" And this guy who's probably got 10 years on him is like, "Yeah, I don't have a choice. Yes." And so my friend is this massive man of a boy. Is like, "Okay," and like takes his glasses off and puts them on my dashboard. I run out of the driver's seat to behind Steve Perry just in case he tries to sucker punch my friend, getting out of the truck.
Sure.
And my friend gets out, and it's one of those classic scenarios, right? Like this Steve Perry thinks he's messing with a high schooler that maybe has some facial hair. Well, my friend gets out of the truck, and now Steve Perry's a little less than happy that he picked a fight with a kid who's 10 years younger than him, but it's so much bigger.
Dimensions?
Probably not that tall, probably like 5'11".
Okay.
And I'm trying to think in high school, like, probably 5'11". I'm gonna call him 190.
But like solid.
But yeah, I mean, varsity athlete from like freshman year.
Right.
Could have been a varsity athlete in 6th grade if he was in high school. And at this point now, I get around. He gets out of the car. There's, there now Steve Perry's afraid, so he's back like 5 steps, but he's still doing the almost, like you almost want to say from the cartoon where he's got the fists and put him up, like trying to do this thing. But my friend's kind of just standing there, and at this point, when we would roll to concerts back then, it's not like my crew was this deep, but it was just word would get out, and there would very often be at least, if not more, at least 50 people from our high school, from my class would be at these shows.
We had a huge high school, so
And so at this point, now just a minute later or whatever it is, there's a massive circle around this guy of high school kids.
And high school style, circle them up.
And you got like Steve Perry, and then you got like the kid who's like the class clown who wouldn't hurt a fly, but he's talking the most shit now. And now Steve Perry's just circled with like 50 high school kids, and he bounces. But it was one of those funny high school stories,
That's reminiscent of.
But we didn't actually do anything wrong. None of us did anything wrong. And this guy, and I'll tell you his name. I'll tell you later. You might know who he is. Like this big guy, the nicest guy. To say that too, like the nicest guy. Like he was just the guy was like, "I gotta call you out," and he's like, "Okay, I guess." Like
this is happening now. I can kind of commiserate a little bit with Steve Perry just because I'm on that older side now, and I still like going to concerts. But I remember going to see.
Yeah, but you're 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I never want trouble, and like I see 18, 19, 20-year-old dudes like trying to grab on girls, and I'll be like, "Hey, let's not do that,"
Yeah,
and
it's
then they
tough,
jump
man.
in. It doesn't matter how big you are, 5, 6, 18-year-olds, it doesn't matter.
I did that whole stick up for somebody one time thing, and it didn't backfire, but it kind of almost did in that, man, I was in high school. I was like this was the beginning of senior year. And this is actually a cool story and how it ended, but beginning of senior year, and this guy who's a junior I must have been a junior. And a sophomore, because there was a special needs kid who was a year older than me. Do you remember Sathya? That name ring a bell? So special needs guy, he's just a nice kid, and this sophomore decided to go push this special needs senior into a locker randomly, and I'm just walking through the hallway, and I just see it. And it's one of those moments in life where you just react,
Yeah.
So imagine you're the special needs guy, and I'm walking through the hallway, and this guy shoves you, and I just saw it, and I just grabbed him, and I just spun, and I just like threw him into a locker. Never done anything like that in my entire life. Never started a fight in my entire life. Grab the guy and throw him into a locker, and there's nothing he could do. I was an athlete. I'm short, 5'6", but like in pretty good shape, and he was a bit smaller than me, and nothing he could do. But as he's walking away, he was one of the ghetto kids. Like we grew up in a nice suburb, but we had those kids that thought they were like that. And, as he's walking away, he does the whole, like, all right, you'll see,
Right.
whatever. And then apparently this whole thing happens. And, yeah, like that whole ghetto community, again, I shouldn't be using that term, but, like, ghetto community for the white suburb of whatever, had, like, a, quote, hit out on me kind of thing, like, and everything. It was kind of funny. But the funny part, the good ending, is the main toughest of the kids who was supposed to be the one ringleading all these little guys coming after me, was in my grade. And fast forward a little bit through that senior year, and we're at one of those concerts at Tweeter. This is the end of senior year, and I love this about senior year of high school. We're drinking, like I said, 50 people and everything, and it turns out I look over and there's him, the leader of the ghetto kids that want to kill me.
Right.
And at this point, we're at the end of senior year, and we just both, it's like something clicked. And we realized we're just drinking together and, like, we're going somewhere else after senior year. And I think he was actually, which blows my mind, because he was, like, I don't know how he graduated kind of kid. And he was like, yeah, let's squash this shit. Kind of like, we're fucking having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
and it was cool. Like,
Almost like
I think it was the same concert. I really do. I think
90s
that
high
same
school
concert.
movie ending. That's
It was.
kinda
I mean,
what
it was 19, or
2000.
probably the year 2000.
And now being, like, in the school system, like, I hate those kind of situations because, like, you're, seeing it from that side, I'm like, guys, just go to your class.
Can you
Just go
imagine?
do
I
it.
mean,
Just
I
go
was
do
gonna say,
your
I
thing.
said, can you imagine? Of course you can imagine. But yeah, I imagine when you're in your position and you see two kids that are like sophomores and fighting, and you're like, in 2 years you're gonna be friends, or like.
And I'm like, guys, now I have to do paperwork. Like, it's more just like, come on, like, help me out. Like, do this somewhere else.
That's funny.
Holding kids back from, and it's funny. Everyone's tough when there's people holding them back. You know what I mean? Just kind of like like you said, when everyone was circling around.
Oh yeah.
And when you don't have to do anything, it's really easy to, like, be the gung ho and let's take this to the next level.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh wait, so I didn't get back to the original fact that I had, actually, because I said that I had an original fact, but then I
man.
learned the traveling Wilburys one.
Okay.
This is our longest non-swag. We're back to where this whole conversation's, I guess, in a weird way. But
40
anyway,
minutes later.
something like that. Yeah, we're on for like an hour and 10 minutes. But the original fact I had was, did you know, I'm not saying every time, 100% of the time, but on occasion, an ostrich can kill a lion.
Legs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You knew that? By two facts you just knew.
I don't know them, but you know how I know that one?
Traveling Wilburys, you just knew. You pulled the name out. Like,
Yeah,
you knew that one.
Yeah, just because, like, I didn't know for sure, but it made sense when you were like, these 5 people, and I was like, super group type thing. But that crazy show, Alaskan Bush People,
Never seen it, but I know. I've heard
they had ostriches, and literally one of like the strongest son had to, like, wrestle it, and literally the father's like, they kill. His exact words were, they're known to kill lions.
So it was a combination of it's something like, I didn't write it down, but I think
Their
it's like
leg
I
power
think
is
it's like
ridiculous.
2,000 psi or something like that, and they have like 4-inch talons.
Yeah,
So it's a bullet. Like it's like 2,000 psi on a 4. Like that's like a bullet. Like,
And when you like, there's footage of this guy
So
wrestling.
this is my
like,
third bottle.
Full grown. Oh my gosh. Ooh, the Widow Jane.
this is the Widow Jane. This is the bourbon.
Syrup.
Bourbon syrup one. But this is the brand that I was actually referenced when I was talking about when I left Wadify. They have another Widow Jane. It was like Lucky 13 or something.
Oh, there you go.
And so it kind of fit when I bought that bottle. And then I won this bottle in the group that we're both in.
My buddy who was starting the bourbon exchange, all 3 of those bottles I think are stuff I've seen people kind of give one another in that little exchange.
Really?
So that's kind of cool.
So
This sounds like something I would really be into, the maple syrup finished bourbon.
you smelled it before.
And I just brought you, to tie it in, I just brought you maple bourbon
yeah.
coffee.
Yeah, maybe we'll. I was gonna say maybe we'll have that on like the next episode or something, but can't really drink coffee at like 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. But anyway, so I guess real quick while we're on the ostrich thing, because I have ostrich stories too. Not really emu though.
The Emu Farm in Marlton?
In Marlton.
Don't tell me you like went in and tackled one.
So it was on Kettle Run Road, like around the corner from.
Keep in mind, I moved here after living in Yonkers for 16 years, and my people were like, "Oh, I'm like, yeah, I live down the road from an emu farm, apparently." Like,
Yeah.
They were like, "Dude, where did you go?"
So, And this was pre-social media and stuff, but you did a good job of keeping in touch with people, I guess. Like Tavert and those people.
In its infancy, and really,
how did you keep in touch with them?
see him and stuff like really more through
Later,
social media, right?
Like reconnecting later.
You know,
yeah.
which I saw.
Honestly, I wonder what my life would be like. Like we all know social media blows now, but like in its infancy when it was just for good and it did its good thing. The reality is, man, I had my core group of best friends in high school.
Right.
I went to the fucking Marine Corps for 5 years without Facebook or
Nothing.
MySpace.
And they didn't know you had to write you a letter or anything?
We're not getting back together. Like, because of those things, and then, like, it helped. I'm not saying we're not or we never would have.
Yeah.
But it fucking helped.
I told you, one of the first people we showed
If not, they're just the people I knew from high school. Now they're my best friends for over 25 years. My best friends for 25 years, I might not even know today if not for social media.
You're 1,000% right. One of the first people we showed one of these episodes to, because he's in kind of the film world, I said I had just reconnected because of social media.
I remember.
One of my friends, back when I lived there, I was going to Fordham Prep, Matt Pascal, and oddly enough, dating a girl. They both live in Brooklyn now, but she's from Marlton.
That blows my mind.
Like I said, so he would have been, like when I went to visit them at her house, literally her parents live 7 minutes from where I currently live in Atco. And I'm like, you would have been here and we would have never known it if it wasn't for Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm not an Instagram guy, I was a Facebook guy, so he was like, I messaged you on Instagram, but I never checked it.
Wow.
So just, social media is just insane. Yeah.
So I guess the reason why I brought the emu farm up, it was our senior prank that we never did. It was a joke. It was a joke from day one. Mm-hmm. But we had it was like in lunch, periodically.
So you never did this?
We never did this. No, no. It was like periodically though in lunch, like through the whole. We were joking about this senior prank. And it just grew and grew and grew. And at some point, I forget, but at some point it involved like a helicopter and the emu farm and grabbing emus and like, because like, I think the classic senior prank, which I don't think, when we were graduating high school, like senior prank wasn't a thing. Like that's a thing of sitcoms that we saw.
Or you heard about it like nostalgia, like the Wonder Years.
It wasn't a real thing for us at least. But the classic one you always hear is the releasing of like mice or something like that. So we were like, all right, so we got to release emus, but how do you get them? All right, helicopter, obviously.
How else are you going to get an emu to your high school?
Like, come on. Oh, because the other one, was Full House was the car on the roof. Do you remember that? Full House, they put a car in the roof.
No, I don't remember that. I'll have to check that out.
And I could be mixing it up a little bit, but I want to say that was Jesse's. Or no, was that when Jesse went back to high school? And so as an adult, put a car.
You love Uncle Jesse.
I do love Uncle Jesse. I mean, come on, those eyes.
Eric and the Rippers. He is a beautiful man, I'm not going to lie. John
That's
Stamos.
a t-shirt idea. Jesse and the Puffers.
Ooh, I like
Jesse
that.
and the Smokers.
We will definitely have to do. We'll do
Something.
There'll be a Cedar Culture Full House shirt.
Absolutely.
So in another
That's
weird
the next
way,
one, dude. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Write it down.
I will write it down. To kind of tie this in an even weirder way, the high school I went to before Cherokee, Fordham Prep, they did a senior prank.
Oh, you went to Fordham Prep for it? Oh.
Yeah.
I was like, wait,
So
because my only reference of Fordham is the college.
Right, and
so
it's on
so
the
when you said
college.
Fordham, I was like, wait, what?
It's the prep school on the college campus.
I didn't know you grew up like a rich kid.
I wasn't a rich kid. I went to
Fordham's like a good school.
I had to take a test to get in, and if I didn't get like some form of help, it was expensive. Like it was like it was like $7 or $8 grand a year back in '95.
So when you came to Cherokee, did you feel like ahead or behind? Because I've never transferred schools in my life. I went K through 12 in the same school system.
It was a weird way. Like, so I didn't have to take Latin and Greek, so I felt relieved because like you had to take Latin and Greek.
But weren't you done it by then? Because you probably didn't have to take it all 4 years.
All 4 years you take it at Fordham. So my languages were done, which was
How'd you
good.
get away with public school? Like your parents didn't? Because if they were sending you to this private school, I would think they would want to send you to like a private school when you moved down.
No, I think they were like, no, the schools are better here. From where I grew up, because
our school. That's why I grew up in Marlton. So
our
my
school
mom and
district's
my
solid,
biological
man.
father. I was born in Willingboro, and they lived in an apartment in Edgewater Park, and like not a great area. But when I was like 5, they moved to Marlton, and my mom wound up getting, my parents got divorced and all this stuff happened. My mom got remarried and all that. But my parents, this is what's crazy. My mom and my biological father moved to Marlton when I was 5. right before kindergarten so I could be in that school system because it's a good school system.
And that happens all the time.
I graduated high school, and 2 months later in September, I go to boot camp. While I'm in boot camp, my parents moved out of Marlton.
They pieced out, yeah.
They were in Marlton for my school years, and that's it.
So here's the funny piece, how that ties into this as well. We would not have moved if I didn't have a younger brother. So my brother is like 12 years younger than I. I'm in high school. Like
Oh, yeah.
I would have been, like they would have just kind of waited. My brother, they moved to Marlton when Dom's 5 or 6.
You know what the crazy plot twist is? You were the accident. He was on purpose.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure now he's in medical school. He's doing good things. I'm sitting here smoking cigars with you, talking shady business of us breaking up sex at Jimmy Buffett concerts. But
I wouldn't have it any other way.
I wouldn't have even moved here if it wasn't for him. Because they moved here because.
Is that really?
Yeah.
Like your dad.
You couldn't even go to like he wanted to get out of. That area.
But I mean,
we almost moved to Buffalo, New York.
It's not because he got a job or like he looked
He
for
did.
a job first.
Right. He wanted a promotion that would take him.
Oh, did
out
he
of
stay
World
with the same
Trade Center and
company?
stuff. Yeah. He was with.
Oh, so he found transfer in the same company
right.
and everything. What do you do? What does he do? Is he retired?
He's retired. He does consulting. He worked for OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health
Yeah, I know
Administration.
OSHA.
He was. He was the.
My dad was OSHA certified.
Right. He does all those classes now, and he still, teaches those certs for
Because my dad was, he's retired. He's
steel
iron
worker?
worker. Iron worker, yeah, the local 401 out of Philly, and was a foreman, whatever, and did all the OSHA stuff.
So really, I don't think he would have been pressed to move if he didn't have a 5-year-old. That we couldn't even really go to like the local park near our house anymore. Like it was
degrading.
Yeah, it was
getting worse.
Yeah, because we couldn't when I went to high school. Like
I only know of
the
Yonkers
local
from Law and
public
Order, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Really?
Yonkers is in Law and Order all the time.
Ooh,
I mean, it used to be.
Check that out.
At that time.
So circling back to the senior pranks, one of the senior pranks they did at Fordham, and I think, remember we were talking about pranks really being more in like sitcoms? I think they're more like parochial school, get a bunch of, it was an all boys school, Fordham Prep, like all boys high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Tie,
But
jacket,
not
the whole nine.
Fordham College, though.
No. Not
Yeah,
Fordham
because I
College,
knew a
Fordham
girl
Prep
who went to
School.
Fordham
Yeah.
out of high school.
But they're both Jesuit. I think Fordham University is Jesuit. Like the
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, it's
Jesuit.
just a subsect of religion.
Yeah, I know, but my only experience with Jesuit was like, I played lacrosse in high school. I went to a camp at, I forget what college it was that year, but.
Was it a Jesuit
What was that?
college?
No, but there was a kid there from a Jesuit prep school.
Okay.
And I remember I was just like, what the fuck is a Jesuit? Like I then and still don't know.
I will say there were some really cool detentions are very, very different. Like
Really?
they had Jug Justice Under God. So they were so creative. Like if you fought, you had to literally carry the Igloo yellow coolers, like the 3 gallons full of rocks, like all day throughout your day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I love that because that's the stories we hear from our parents.
Yeah.
Like so my adopted dad is left-handed. And he went to Catholic school, so he tells the stories of the rulers and the knuckles and the
Did
this
they have to
and
make him
that.
a right-hander at that point?
So I forget all the details, but the reason why I even know any of this is because when he came into our life, I was 5 or 6, and he was big in the guns and was teaching us how to shoot, and I'm left-handed, and he's left-handed, but he shoots right-handed. Like he learned how to do a lot of things right-handed
Because they beat it into you.
Yeah, and the way I was raised, it was interesting that I haven't fully quantified it, but as far as I can think of off the top of my head, I write, I eat, and I brush my teeth left-handed, and I do everything else right-handed, and that's part of why. So he was a left-hander that shoots guns right-handed, and so I was a left-hander, and so when he taught me to shoot guns, he taught me to shoot guns right-handed. He went through the whole exercise of you have to learn if you're left eye dominant or right eye dominant when you're shooting. Have you ever shot guns? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Did you ever go through that exercise? Should you be lefty or righty? Because it's a whole eye dominance thing.
When I was in the Scouts doing that, for the merit badge and archery, same thing. So I don't remember what it was, but I remember them doing
And
that.
then you're left. Yeah.
But fast forward to my oldest son, writes lefty, does everything else righty. And we just lucked out because when he started writing in kindergarten.
It's weird. He looks like me too, so.
And his name's Eric Jr. It's really, there's some weird stuff going on. I got to talk to you and Allie off air. But I was so nervous because I was like, athletically, now I got to teach him everything lefty. But like he naturally threw a ball right-handed, so I was like, I think you were supposed to write with your right hand.
That's what I wondered. That, and my mom has joked about that when I was younger and stuff too.
I think they were excited to see a kid writing left-handed and just went with it because when you're a kid, there's no dominant. You just do.
I mean, my mom, like she said, like she's kind of like checked, you know what I mean? Like really tried to push, like make sure, or not push, but rather like make sure that like that's what I did, you know?
That's good.
And I did, but I have terrible handwriting.
So do I. Oh, yeah, it's
I
terrible.
gotta wonder, like, yeah, and she's joked about it.
And it's hard to write lefty anyway. He has such a problem, like with his pencil smearing everything, ink smearing everything.
Forget about that, dude. In our day, do you remember, like, we're the generation, I think, where erasable pens became a thing.
Yeah.
Dude, try writing left-handed with an erasable pen. You finish a school day with like a tattoo on your left hand, and your whole paper is just like hand marks.
I want to tie in this stupid senior prank thing because it ties into a couple things we've talked about today. So the seniors, I think when I was a freshman, they let 4 piglets go in the school.
When you were a freshman?
So when I was a freshman.
So they did a real senior prank.
They did a real senior prank. But
I'm jealous.
They numbered the pigs 1, 2, 3, and 5.
Dude.
So it talks about messing up with the numbers. It talks about senior pranks.
That's amazing.
So that way they find.
But
1, 2, 3,
how do
5.
people in high school think of that? Pre-internet.
They were smart kids.
Pre-internet.
They were smart prep kids.
But pre-internet, they thought of this thing that like,
sure, someone's dad. You know, they were like, in our day they did this, but so they catch the 4, and then they're looking for they catch 1, 2, 3, and 5, and spend a lot of time looking for number 4. So interesting.
Wild, man. Well, cigar's ending.
I know.
My finger's starting to burn. I don't think the conversation's done, but I think the episode has to be done.
We did this one. This was so
this was
nonlinear,
a fun one,
but I
man.
loved
This
it.
was a really fun episode. I'm really happy. This was a
cool way to spend
for a
your
birthday.
Yeah,
this was a good birthday episode. We got to go pretty deep on a topic we've hit on a couple times with just my transitions in 2020, but also
and how cool it is that I think you're doing this.
Starting the business
it's
thing.
So cool, man. And I want to say on air.
It's funny that you think it's cool, and other people that I'm friends with too, and that I'm thinking like I'm literally self-conscious that there's people in my life think I'm a pussy because I'm doing this. It's
Dude,
insane.
Don't let something one person said.
I know, but you know how.
Yeah.
You know what? Like
anxiety and shit.
It's the anxiety. It
also,
almost feels like how even when you talk about your kids sometimes and. Like they're caring people, and like I'm just a caring person, and
so
like
you care what?
Oh, I almost care what people think because of that, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever. But I've actually gotten over it at this point.
No,
but literally, up to like 2 days ago, I was really in my head.
I give you a lot of credit, man. I definitely want a Primos hat that I can rock backwards. So
I've got another one in there.
We'll have to make that happen.
I do have another one in there.
I want to say this on air, especially not just because it's your birthday. I posted before, but dude, Cedar Culture would not be anything without your driving force behind it. Like you have this fearless energy where you're like, oh, I'm going to learn this equipment because we need it. I'm going to do this. Where I'm like, oh, can't we work around that and we'll just do hand puppets or something? Like,
we should do hand puppets.
But we got to make him a puppet. We got to make Cedric.
Dude, we're going to do a lot with Cedric. Like this whole thing, it's so funny. And I really, really genuinely appreciate that, honestly. But like, I feel like we're just getting started. We are just getting started. No, and what's great about this is that we're doing it. What's cool is that we're doing it. I think we're staying true to what we originally said. When we first had this idea, you were walking out of my garage. I remember, like, I think it was one of those pool days we referenced earlier.
That we smoked like
and
7 cigars.
And I said to you, as you were leaving, I said, do you think other people would think we're as entertaining as we think we are? And I think, like, I don't remember who said what after that, but it came down to the consensus between the two of us of maybe not, but, like, we're doing this anyway, so let's hit record. And, you know, it's growing, and it's fun, and I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. And,
oh, man.
Dude, and we're doing this thing that, it's cool, and all the other, all the apparel, like we talked about putting apparel out, which wasn't the original goal, but now as we're getting more and more into cigars, and we're like, I'm one of those kids. So I played lacrosse in high school. I mentioned this a million times, but through high school and middle school, all I wore was like lacrosse clothes. Like I was in that, and then I got into CrossFit when I was older, and all I wore was CrossFit clothes, and working at Wadify and this, and then I'm like, okay, like I'm into cigars now, and when I look, all the T-shirts that you see, they're like, I love cigars and bitches. I love cigars and bitches.
I smoke cigars and know things. That's what I do.
Yeah,
And it's
I
like,
smoke cigars. Yeah, they're that, which is it's
we want stuff that
so
we want
derivative
we would
that
wear.
we would want to wear. And I've really been thinking a lot, man, about cedar culture and why we named it cedar culture. And the reality is, it truly is a mashup of cigars, cedar, right? Like the humidor. The humidor made out of cedar. It houses the cigars. And then culture is like a nod to pop culture, which we're huge dorks. And so this line it's going to be really cool. It's going to be really fresh. It's
Seeing
completely
some of the designs
different.
you're working on are just amazing.
And we've got some great ideas. We have a document that we have over 50 more ideas on. And so we're going to, we've talked about it, and we're going to, I think, get it up to about 10 designs, tried and true, where we've worn them all. We love them all. We've shown them all to people. Everything's just nice. And then we're going to put it out to the public, but we're not going to rush it. And that's the beauty of this being a hobby, is that it's like we have that luxury of making sure we come out with like really nice stuff and then put it out there, as opposed to I love cigars and boobs, like those shirts.
And I think it kind of came down to, I remember us having some really interesting conversations where we're like, well, what do we want it to be and how do we get there? Because if we make it, force it, it's not going to be us. You know what I mean? So it kind of had to happen at that pace. Plus, you have to work with me where I'm like snail's pace as it is. So, but and this is one of those things where I get to. You started this episode talking about trying to find your identity, whereas this is bringing an identity back to me where I'm not Dad, I'm not Mr. R at work. Point. Like, I get to be Gary again.
Is that what they call you, Mr. R?
Mr. R, because Raskoski's.
Isn't that hard?
Nah. People don't know how to spell it or say it. But, like, I get to be me where we kind of met. Like, this whole started because we were building, talk about CrossFit, we were building mud runs together. And just to pass the time, we're making each other laugh. And it started with, if we can do that together and laugh, we can do pretty much anything. So.
Whatever.
Nah,
so,
man, it's going to be great.
On this one, man, instead of to the camera, I'm going to say to you, man, long ashes.
Stay smoky. Happy birthday, brother.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for checking out the Cedar Culture Podcast. If you'd like that episode, go ahead, tap, like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on your platform of choice. And if you are on YouTube, hit that bell as well to be notified of new episodes. It really helps us out. We appreciate it.
And then don't forget to head over to Instagram and Facebook and follow us as well.
Do it.
Do it.